Welcome to the Maximize Your Potential podcast, where we demonstrate that you have unlimited potential. And when you maximize it every day, you will lead a life of happiness and fulfillment.
All right, so welcome to the latest episode of Maximize Your Potential with myself, Chris Baker. And today I am introducing a good friend of mine, Margaretrose Cox. And Margaretrose spent much of her working life specializing in customer service in several different industries. She found herself coaching others on a regular basis, and in 2018 made the decision to pursue her passion of helping others as a full-time career opportunity by joining the John Maxwell Team. Since then, Margaretrose has continued her growth journey, and in 2020 became a teaching partner with the Empowered Living community. She has 3 grown children and several nieces and nephews since she's the youngest of 8 children. She's many first-hand knowledge of the struggles young adults face today because of her working with many college-age clients in a major university town. So Margaretrose, welcome.
Welcome. Yay. I'm excited to be here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Awesome sauce.
Bit grey and stormy in Florida at the moment, but that's our season at the moment. But it's still warm and every day's a good day. So,
well, in Florida, you just wait maybe about an hour and a half and that storm will turn into sunshine.
Exactly.
Be the way it is.
That's good. All right. So Margaret, tell the listeners about your journey, sort of where have you come from, where have you got to, and how did you get there? What were your sort of aha moments along the way?
I think for me, I started out in the hospitality industry and worked in hotels and restaurants. And then when I got married in 1991, my ex-husband was in the Navy, so we had to move up and down the East Coast. So being in the hospitality industry was great because I could start out at any, hotel or restaurant and then easily work my way up with the fact of my knowledge and my credentials. So I worked at a resort up in Connecticut called Foxwoods, and was on one of the first people that started the VIP department at Foxwoods. So I handled all the high rollers and the celebrities that came in. So that was a lot of fun. But it was just, always I had to, because I didn't finish college and didn't get my degree, I was always kind of starting, always had to do the entry level position and then work my rear end off and get up to a higher position. But I could always, my customer service skills were always there. I could always count on that. And so it was an easy way for me to jump off onto that. Found that, I still always wanted more. I was not, if I had got a job at a major paper company and I was going out and having lunch with all the vice presidents as as basically a basic global administrator, and so all the senior management and middle management people were like, why is she going out and hanging out with all the vice presidents? She should, they weren't really keen on that, but I always wanted more. And so I knew that I had to get to the next level, but how was I going to get the knowledge? So, anyway, life events happened and I decided to be a stay-at-home mom. And so I did that for several years. And when I got divorced, I found myself back in the workplace. Well, I had all this knowledge and all this experience, but then I also had this large gap. And I didn't know what to do. So I went and I got a management job at a major restaurant chain. I started managing the restaurant. And in that process, I was coaching all of my servers, what to do, how to make more money, and how to apply some of the knowledge that I had and life experience to them getting a bigger check. And so that was kind of like my first experience back into working with young adults other than my kids' friends. And so next thing I know, I'm coaching all of these servers. Well, I ended up taking a step back because my son had an illness and I couldn't do the late night hours. So I had to go back to serving tables myself. So there I am in restaurants. Sorry. I'm back in restaurants and then I'm serving with them, and the young kids keep coming to me all the time wanting life advice. And so I'm giving them all this advice, and finally one of them says to me, you should be a coach. I said, yeah, no, not quite there yet. I'm 42 years old. I'm serving tables for a living. Something tells me that I have to have some sort of certification, and I just don't see myself getting that. I mean, who's going to listen to me? I'm a 42-year-old server. Okay, so fast forward a few years, moved back to Tallahassee, Florida, and started working for the city of Tallahassee. Had a job as a conflict resolution specialist, which was anything but a fun job, and had to deal with a lot of complaints 8 hours a day. So I was constantly dealing with people screaming at me all day, and I would end up coaching my teammates just to be able to get through the day. And somebody came up to me again and said, you should do this coaching thing for a living. I've watched you take this person who was not happy at all, and you literally turned them around and had them doing something much more productive in their day. And I said, yeah, people have said that to me before, and I just kind of laughed it off. And I said, yeah, but I just don't see it happening. And they turned around and they said, I need to get a certification. I have to go back to school. I have to get my degree. I came up with every excuse in the world of why I couldn't get my dream. And the person turned around and looked at me and said, well, there's this certification program with John Maxwell. Well, I knew who John Maxwell was because I'd been reading his books and I'd seen him interviewed. And so they said, okay, well, why don't you go ahead and take a look at this certification program? So I took a look at it, and I got really excited. I got really, really excited. I said, oh my gosh, I can do this, and I can help people. And that's what I really just want to do. I just want to help people. And so I took a huge, huge leap of faith in myself and belief in myself. I quit my job. I cashed in my retirement, and I said, I'm going to do this. And I bought, and I paid into the program and joined the John Maxwell Team and worked for 6 months to get through all of the material that's on the platform so that I could go out with knowledge and be able to coach people and help them to improve their lives. So in the interim, I still had some bills that I had to pay, and I had to find a way to support myself. So I started driving Uber and Lyft. And so I also used that as an opportunity to kind of cut my teeth on working with my John Maxwell material. And so because I live in a major university town, I dealt with a lot of college kids. So I started to see that I could help them, and I started to reach out to that community. So continue to get my, my personal growth journey and practice and work really hard to get my, my skill set back up to where I felt that I could really make a difference. And got my got my licensing with Empowerment Living after Think and Grow Rich 4 and 5, and just jumped all in and started going out to try and help people. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, and so you should. It's a good story, and so there's a lot of similarities between you and I as well with regards to, like, I was 51 years old, so a little bit older than you were when I sort of started thinking there's more to my life than just the 9-to-5 job, or let's quote unquote 9-to-5 job, right? There's not many that are now, but there's more to life, and there's more that we can offer. And so tell me, like, you're working, or you were Uber and Lyfting and cutting your teeth with these college kids. What sort of things did you learn from there? How did that open your eyes in terms of what they were experiencing and what they needed, that the likes of you and I could help with?
Absolutely. One of the things that I noticed, and almost every single one of them was full of excitement and joy for wanting to do something great with their lives. That was one of the things that I absolutely loved about working with them. But then you would ask them, because they had this, because I was driving them around in an Uber, it was unassuming. They didn't know that I was working on my stuff. I would just create a conversation with them. And so as I'm sitting there talking with them, the majority of them, I don't like to say all or every, but the majority of them were excited about being in college, excited about the opportunities that were in front of them, but they had no idea what they wanted to do. Like you would say, well, what are you getting your degree in? I'm getting my degree in philosophy. Well, what are you going to do with that? I don't know. Really? You don't know? You have no idea. You're going to spend 4 years in college and you have no idea what you're going to do for a living when you come out of college. No, I'm just going to get a job and I'm going to make lots of money and then I'm going to have a great life. Okay, great. And, you know, and then you just ask them like basic life questions, you know, like, so what's about you? Do you know what you're going to budget yourself for that budget? What? They have no idea of basic life skills. They can't function on a regular basis. So at one point I was coming up with some content in a course that I wanted to put together that I was calling Adulting 101. And it was going to be something just the basic life skills. How do you cook a meal? How do you go into, you know, sometimes I was driving for the first time to go to Publix and they were so excited about going grocery shopping for the first time. You're 20 years old and you've never gone to the grocery store? Nope, never done it. Okay, what are you going to buy? I have no idea. Okay. You know, how much money do you have? I mean, I would ask them like just really basic, like, how much money do you have to spend on your groceries? I don't know. I'm just going to put it on my mom's card. Okay. You know, so I was very thankful for the fact that before we sent my daughters off to college, you know, we had them go through a budgeting class. They had to learn how to manage money. And that was one of the things that we did as a family. It was something that my ex-husband and I agreed was that they needed to have certain life skills to be able to go and function. Because, you know, they weren't going to get just an open card that they could just put anything on. So that's kind of part of the problem. And it's not just the kids because they don't understand that, you know, that there's such a thing as a budget because nobody ever told them.
Yeah.
And so that's a huge big disconnect is that, you know, it's just a huge big disconnect. I have a great story that feeds into that. When I was coming up with that course, if you want me to share it with you.
I was just going to ask you to see it because you shared it to me before. I want you to share that because it's what I was just going to add is that the parents love their kids, right? And they want their best for their kids and they'll do anything to protect the kids and set themselves up. So share the story because then we can sort of follow up on that afterwards. It's great.
Yeah. So as I was coming up with this concept of the curriculum that I was telling you about, I wanted to see, you know, how it would resonate with parents and children or young adults and college kids. So I put a little blip out onto a parenting site and before it got taken down, because I technically don't have a parent or I don't have a student force, they said, I said, you know, if you have a college student and you'd like them to learn some adulting skills, you know, give me a call. And I put my phone number up there. And within the 5 minutes that it was on the site, I had, you know, 3 parents call me. And one of them agreed that I could go and interview her son. And so I went and I went down to meet her son at one of the local sandwich shops. It's right on campus, very well known. And so I went over there, met him for lunch. And, you know, I got there early to have my lunch and put it out there. You know, and he came through and I said, you know, I introduced myself. Hey, and his name was Brandon. Okay. And I said, hey, Brandon, nice to meet you. I'm Margaretrose. And we're just going to kind of talk a little bit about life and life in general. And he was like, okay, sure. No problem. So as in the conversation, you know, Brandon's a junior in college. He was 21 years old. He lived alone in an apartment. He didn't have a car. And he didn't like to take Uber because he wasn't really big on socializing with people. So, you know, a lot of times when you're in an Uber, the Uber drivers like to create a conversation, which is what I used to do. And they just want to talk to you. And so he just he didn't like that too much. So he didn't like to go like venturing out. So he wasn't your typical partying college kid. He was very quiet and very reserved. He'd done very well. He was doing very well in school, but he was getting ready to look for internships and he had to get out there and start putting his resume out. So this was kind of part of the thing that his mom wanted me to talk to him about, getting out and venturing into the world. And it was going to be a safe space. So as we're talking, I'm sitting there and I'm asking him about, again, the concept of a budget. He goes, oh yeah, no, I don't have a budget. I said, really? So what do you do? And he goes, oh, well, I've got 2 of my mom's credit cards on my Apple Pay. And, I just, whenever I want something, I just go and get it. And I was like, wow. I said, well, would you want to know about a budget? I mean, he goes, I don't even know what that is. I said, well, how do you go grocery shopping? And he goes, I don't go to the grocery store. I'm like, excuse me? And he goes, yeah. He goes, my mom, she lives down and goes onto the app and tells the grocery store, what food to bring me. And then it just shows up at my door because they deliver it to my house, to my apartment. I was like, really? He said, yes. I said, oh, so what about like cleaning your house, all these other things? He said, oh, no, I don't have to deal with that either. I have, my mom, she has a maid that comes once a week and they clean my house. And I was like, oh my gosh, wow, what? I couldn't believe it. And so I finally said, do you want to learn about budgeting? I mean, would you like to go to the grocery store and buy your own food? And he said, oh my God, he was so hungry for it. He was desperate to get the knowledge. He was like, absolutely, I want to go. I want to be able to pick out what I want to eat. And I said, okay. So we sat down and we came up with like, well, what do you like to eat? Like grocery list. So then we opened the app, started looking to see what the cost of it was, and created a budget for what it would cost him to go to the grocery store. And I said, so what you need to do is you need to, reach out to your mom, call your mom. Because again, I'm trying to keep the parents involved, it's their child. I said, and let her know that you're going to go to the grocery store for the first time and you're going to go grocery shopping. And he said, okay. And he was super excited. So I was like, yeah, okay, great. So I called his mom after the session. I said, hello, this is Margaretrose. I met with your son. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, do you have him getting ready to go out and look for an internship? And I said, no, not really. I said, but I do have him ready to go to the grocery store. He learned about how to make a budget. And she was like, why would you do that? And I said, well, because, I'm trying to help him like step into being an adult. He's graduating from college next year, And she said, well, I mean, how's he ever going to know if I love that I love him if you're going to have him doing all of this stuff for himself? And I was like, oh, now I get it. Mm-hmm. Brandon's not the problem. The problem is that mommy doesn't want to let Brandon grow up because then her baby boy doesn't need her anymore. So I was like, okay, thank you so much. Have a great day. Appreciate you letting me interview your son. And I just kind of like left it at that because there was no way that I could help Brandon while his mother was trying to overrun everything. So because he had a desire and a want. In regards to helping him with his getting out there to do internships, I encouraged him to create study groups in his classes so that he could get used to being around people. So I mean, there were some other aspects to it, but that I call it baby Brandon syndrome, little baby Brandon, because Brandon wants desperately to learn, wants desperately to understand, and that was one of the things that as I was driving around doing my surveys with the college kids, they want to learn and they want to understand and they want to be successful in their lives, but they just know that they don't have the tools. They know the first thing they say is, oh my gosh, can you teach me how to do my taxes? I was like, you go to H&R Block when you're this age and you got nothing, I mean, or, you pick up TurboTax and you fill in the 3 blanks because, you don't have anything. You don't have anything to declare. You don't have any, they don't know how to do anything. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And they want to learn. I mean, they talk about when they get into their job that, well, they're just going to work like 3 days a week. And then that, like, because they had to go to Susie's wedding and, that's going to be definitely totally, it's going to be a blowout. And I'm just like, oh my God, you have no idea what it's like to have a job. I mean, none of them, most of them have never worked, and it's just, there's just so much in life that they know that they have no clue about. And they want to learn. That's the hard part, is they really want the information. So sorry, I babbled enough.
No, it's interesting because this again, it all ties in with research that I've done around this and sort of how adults, whether it be the parents, the teachers, college professors, whatever, like basically pre-program these kids with knowledge, and they really want them to be consumers. They want them to memorize stuff, right? So they can pass tests and whatever but they're not teaching them to think for themselves, right? Yeah. And when they come into the workplace, and this is what I was seeing in the workplace, where people, the older generation would look at these millennials and now the Gen Zs coming up and say, oh, they're entitled, they want everything now, they expect it all. Well, that's what they've been shown, right? But in reality, that's not who they are, because you've experienced that through talking to them. They want to learn. They want to be somewhere where there is a cause, where they can make a difference in the world. And so we need to really harness that enthusiasm and harness that energy at a young age, so that they enter the college degree and the workplace knowing what they want and doing it. And it was in I think it's episode 21 of the podcast, where I interviewed Vanessa Jane Patrick, an Australian lady who tells a story. If you haven't listened to that episode, everybody go back and listen to it. But she tells a story about how she let her brother choose her college degree because she didn't know what she wanted to do. So,
most of them, yeah.
Right.
Their parents are choosing their degrees.
Yeah.
Their parents are saying, you need to go ahead and get a degree in business. Okay, that's one of my favorite things to get in the car. What are you getting I'm getting a business degree. Okay, and what are you going to do with that? I'm going to graduate.
Right.
Oh my God. Sorry, so I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just saying, but they are thinking for themselves into anything. It's like, what classes are you taking? I don't know. What are you learning? Like some kind of like applied but I got all A's. They're smart children.
Yeah.
They're very, very smart. They just don't have a direction. They're like, what's the things that, like, when you have a dandelion and you blow the dandelion seeds and they just kind of float off into the world, and it's like they're just floating. And that's not just the girls, and I'll do, I do a little voice with that, but it's, it's not just the girls, it's the guys too. The guys are out there, I'm going to get a degree in business. Okay, what are you going to do with that? I don't know. I'm just going to get a degree in business.
Yeah.
I just want to be a businessman. Okay. Does that include what? Putting on a tie? I don't know. I mean, what is your job going to be? How are you going to actually make money?
Yeah.
I don't know. My dad will tell me. I'll follow my, okay, great. But, your dad works for the state. He doesn't get to decide what you're going to do. He doesn't get to, like, just hire you on. It's not like your parents are living where they have they're entrepreneurs themselves and they have their own companies and they can bring you in. Mm-hmm. That's not even the possibility. Most of them, a lot of the kids at Florida State, their parents are from Tallahassee, and a lot of the jobs here in Tallahassee are state jobs. Their parents work for the state. They're not just going to get you hired on. It doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, Margaretrose, and you could probably attest to it. It was you lived it, I lived it. Many of their parents, if you ask them, are you fulfilled and happy in your job, they're probably going to say no.
Absolutely not.
They're drifting and they're going through life the same. I call it drifting after the Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. That sort of taught me that term, and that's where most people are. They're drifting, just waiting and hoping that something will change and that they'll be okay in their life. They'll have enough money and this is what I say, as I went through and looked back on my journey, my life, to determine who it is I want to serve. This is how I came to the teenagers, because I started looking back at my life at 50 and then went back to 40 and 35 and 30, and it was like, okay, where did this start? Where did this drifting start? And it starts in your teenage years. Because before that, 7-8-year-olds are like so enthusiastic, so energetic. They love life. They've got all these dreams. And then as you get into teenagers, we teach them to avoid failure, right? And we should be doing the opposite. We should be encouraging them to fail.
Well, absolutely, because the parents are sitting there looking at what their children achieve as their badge of honor. And that is such a huge thing. And I lived that as well. I was actually speaking with somebody just yesterday about the fact that, my kids are extremely intelligent and they're very motivated about things. But, I have 4 A's on 6th grade science fair projects. I have 3 children. I have my A that I earned, and then I have the A that I earned for my daughters, my oldest daughters. Then I have the A that I earned for my middle daughters, and then I have the A that I earned for my sons. So I have 4 A's. So a lot of the things I'm talking about, I know from experience because I made the mistakes with my own kids. And I see where I have absolutely hindered them. When I started seeing how it was hindering them in their progress into life, I knew I needed to rectify that, not just, for my kids, but for anybody else that has kids that are that age. But it's the parents that they sit there in that world of judgment of, well, I'm not going to be, people are going to think I'm a bad mom. If my kid called me up and said I forgot my lunch, the immediate thing that ran into my head is, oh my gosh, one of the teachers is going to see that he's hungry and he doesn't have a lunch. Instead of me saying, sorry, you'll eat when you get home. It was 2 hours, people. Come on. He wasn't going to die. Okay. But, I had to rush that lunch up to the school, make sure that everybody knew I brought Peyton his lunch because he forgot it because I'm a good mommy. So I get the good mommy badge today. Really? I mean, but that's the thing. I fell into that, I just fell into that. I wouldn't want to say a rut, but I fell into that whole kind of structure and system of that judgment of everything. I mean, it's like, you're the mom that your kids are in 1,000 activities. So, that makes you the good mommy because you have your kids always doing the camps, doing the gymnastics, doing the dance classes, doing all these things. And then it's snack day and you have to make sure that you have the greatest snack because everybody's going to be judging you on what you bring for snack. Really? When did it become like that? I mean, it was like an extension of Mean Girls from high school, but I wasn't in high school anymore and I really didn't care what they thought. But at the same time, I thought that would be a reflection on my children and my parenting skills. So it was just a whole lot of garbage that was going on in my head and limiting beliefs that I had gotten stuck on inside of my own head. And so as I started going through my growth journey, I started to realize that doesn't matter. I'm hurting my child by fulfilling my need to get the good mommy badge. And so when I really look at that, and that's like, or the good daddy badge, how about the fact that, we told our kids that you don't have to get a job at 16. Your job was to go to school and make good grades. Well, my kids went to school and they got good grades and that was great. But then, they went off to college. And when we said that you need to get a job to help pay for your spending, help with some of your spending money, they just looked at us and said, but I thought we were just supposed to go to school because that was their job, was school. Well, we're still in school. We're like, yeah, nobody. We're going to go ahead and have a new definition of what this is, so that they could understand the concept of we had done the budgeting classes. And so they understood the value, like money, but they hadn't earned it yet. So now they had to earn it. So it wasn't just budgeting with that mommy and daddy's money, so it was definitely a different world. So, but it does start, I think it really starts in that teenage years also because you don't want your kids to fail. You really don't want your kids to fail, but they need to fail and you need to be okay with it. And it's not a reflection of your parenting if they fail. As a matter of fact, it's more it could be considered a reflection of you putting such a bubble around them and then not being able to succeed when you don't let them fail. So it's, I don't know. It's a giant catch-22 in a parent's head. So, and you have kids, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it is. And again, I'll let everybody, just make everybody understand clearly. We're not saying that we're not perfect parents.
No.
And we didn't know what we know now. If we did, then maybe things would have been different. But and this is the whole point of the podcast. The whole point of what I do and what Margaretrose does is that we're not saying we're perfect and we've done all of this. We're saying actually our level of awareness now is greater than it was. And if we'd have known this, we would have done things differently. But hey, you've got the opportunity to do it now, right? So you don't have to
and
like
absolutely. And I don't want to feel like I'm beating up on any of the parents. Absolutely not. Another way for me to explain it to people, and it'll resonate with a lot of the moms especially, and the dads too, is you go in for a fun family activity of decorating the Christmas tree and your kids are little, okay? And how many times when your kids have decorated the Christmas tree with you, after they've gone to bed, you fixed the tree instead of just letting the tree be like, all the ornaments on 6 branches. It's okay. Let all the ornaments be on 6 branches. Your kids achieved something. They did something. Reward that. You don't have to fix that Christmas tree because that's where they put it. It's okay because the next year, then they'll branch them out a little bit and they'll learn. But if you go in and you fix that Christmas tree, they're never going to learn that they need to do something more. And so another great example for me, and this was when I kind of started to open up my eyes just a little bit. My kids were teenagers, and although I'm the youngest of 8 kids, I was the second one to have kids of my siblings. So my children are technically older than the majority of my siblings' children, of my nieces and nephews. Mm-hmm. So I got to make all the mistakes and they got it all right. So, just kidding. So anyway, so I go to visit my brother, Philip, in Nashville. I was living in Northwest Alabama at the time. And my kids are, mid-teens. And his kids are like maybe his oldest was 6 and he has 3 kids. So his youngest was maybe 3. So it's like 3 kids in 3 years. So anyway, and he lives in a very fancy pants neighborhood in Nashville, and it's really beautiful. And Philip's out there with his kids laying mulch. And I walked in, and I drove up, and my ex-husband and I looked at him and went, "Are you gonna fix that mulch?" And he's out there with his 3 kids, with the 3 little kids laying mulch, and they're just like they're putting mulch like everywhere. I mean, there's mulch in the bushes, there's mulch everywhere. Okay. And so, after a while, when they finished all that stuff and then we started to go inside, my ex-husband and I looked at my brother and we said, "Do you want us to fix that?" My brother Phil goes, No, they did it. That's the way it looks. I said, "But don't you want us to fix that?" And he said, No. I said, "Well, aren't they just a little young to be having out there like laying mulch?" And he said, "No. Every year we go out and we'll lay mulch. This is our 2nd year doing it." So, they were literally infants and toddlers out there laying mulch. He said, "It looks a lot better than the first year we did it." I was like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, by the time they get old enough to be able to do it on their own without being supervised, it's going to look like a professional had done it. Because they got to learn somewhere, and you can't fix it." Yeah. And I was like, wow, that hit me like a ton of bricks. Because there was no way. My kids had to make their beds, but, other than that, and I was going in and fixing it. It had to be just right. The pillow is all fluffed in just all the right ways. Mm-hmm. And so, so that was like a big wow moment for me. Like, just go ahead and let them, and they're my niece and nephew are a little older now, and they're doing really great, and they know how to lay mulch like a professional.
Well, and it's a great story. And as you're saying it, and I was thinking about it with the Christmas tree, and the mulch is the same example, right? If you let them do it, and then when they've gone to bed, you go and change it, what message is that sending to the kids, right? It's exactly. Sending, there's 2 messages. One, it's saying, "Hey, you're not good enough to do this, so I'm going to redo it all." But the second is they're going to look at it and say, "Well, what's the point of us doing it if mum and dad are just going to do it anyway? We might as well let them do it in the first place," right?
Absolutely.
So it's a great lesson, and I think that's a fantastic way to wrap things up, because that's what we need to learn. Right, and it's not only, again, it's if you're listening to podcasts, you haven't got kids, you haven't got teenagers, this still applies, because if you're in the workplace, think about it in the workplace too, right? How many times do you give your direct reports or your peers something to do, and then when they do it, they haven't done it right, so you go and correct it? It's the same principle, right? So don't do it. People learn by doing, right? And they learn by their mistakes. They learn by, and failure is only final when you quit, right? Until then, it's a learning experience. So use it as such, and that's great. So that's a great lesson. I think that's something everybody should take note of and share. And you definitely should be using that lesson as well as the baby Brandon lesson in your teachings, Margaretrose, for sure.
Yeah, I am. Thank you so much, Chris. It's been a pleasure being here with you today. Thank
you.
For
well, thank you for that. So listen, hey, Margaretrose, if someone wants to get hold of you, where's the best place for them to get hold of you and follow you?
All right, for right now, I have got my my Facebook page, which is at Margaretrose Cox. Margaretrose is all one long word. MARGARET small ROSE. Last name is Cox, COX. I have a group page called Change Your Stars, and where it's a motivational page for people to hop into. And then you can also email me at mcoxjmt@gmail.com.
Perfect.
Happy to have you reach out to me. I'm in the process of getting my website set up, but until that's all good to go, I'm not going to give out the address yet. So.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'll put those contact details in the show notes as well. And, I look forward to watching your growth and growing alongside you, and everybody connect with Margaretrose, and let's see what we can achieve together. So
let's help all the baby Brandons of the world. Yay!
Exactly. All right. Thanks, Margaretrose.
Thanks, Chris.
I hope you enjoyed this latest episode of Maximise Your Potential podcast with your host, myself, Chris Baker. It's been my pleasure to bring you this episode, and I look forward to working with you further in the future as I guide you through the process of maximising your potential every day. If you like what you hear, I encourage you to subscribe so you get notifications as each new episode is released. And please share it with your friends and family so that other people can benefit from the lessons that you're learning. Thanks again, bye for now, and have a magical day.